It feels like an eternity since the 2024 Euros, so while we're waiting for the 2028 edition, I thought it would be a good idea to check out the grounds it will be taking place in. Here are the Euro 2028 stadiums. Where better to start than at Wembley Stadium, which is the biggest stadium in the British Isles and the home of the England national team. It includes what is probably one of the biggest arches in the world that is not part of a bridge. Rising to a height of 134 metres, it certainly forms a significant part of the London skyline. Of course, the arch is not just for show, it's holding up the roof, which is no mean feat because it's a sizable roof. It shelters every seat in the house, more or less. The ends of it are actually retractable. That's just to allow more sunlight to reach the field in order to help the grass grow. Wembley hosted the final of Euro 2020 and 2021, and it will be hosting the 2028 final as well. Hopefully we see less drunken buffoons trying to enter the stadium without a ticket this time. Staying in London, we have Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is arguably the flashiest stadium in Europe. Which is somewhat ironic given that when the renderings of the design first came out, it was derided by some who said that it looked like a toilet seat. Well, if this place is a toilet, then it's certainly most akin to those that you find in some parts of Asia, because it has a large video board in each corner, as all Korean toilets do. Not North Korea, obviously, that's just a hole in the ground. One of the best features of this ground is the south stand, which unlike the rest of the stands is comprised of just one big tier of seats, 17,500 seats to be exact. It's the largest of its kind in the country. Some people would say that the best feature is actually what sits above the south stand.
Oh, big golden cock that looks down upon us. How did you get up there? A chicken cannot fly so high, not in the sky.
Just a reminder that during international tournaments, stadiums typically go by their non-commercial names, to avoid a conflict of sponsorships. So rather than Principality Stadium, or even its original name Millennium Stadium, this will be called the National Stadium of Wales. Anyway, not important. This is the only host venue that has a fully retractable roof. In fact, it's the only stadium in the UK to have one, if we disregard the courts at Wimbledon. One interesting quirk to the interior is this section here, that is detached from the rest of the seating bowl. It's called Glanmore's Gap. That is actually a remnant of the previous national stadium that occupied the same site. I actually quite like it. The interior would be a bit monotonous without it. City of Manchester Stadium. This sleek metallic clad stadium was actually built to host the 2002 Commonwealth Games, and was of course originally an athletics stadium. But wisely, the city spent the money to build a separate athletics venue next door, and convert this stadium into a football specific venue in order to attract a football club. So it's quite similar to London Stadium and West Ham in that respect. This ground has been the home of Manchester City since 2003. I don't think it had much to do with the stadium, but the club has done quite well for themselves since then. That's partly why the stadium has had to be expanded since they moved in, and will be expanded further by 2026. The 61,000 capacity listed in the title card is the post-expansion capacity. Everton Stadium is currently under construction. However, by the time this event comes around, it will have had 3 seasons under its belt. That is if there are no considerable delays. It's being built on the Bramley Moor dock that formed part of the Port of Liverpool, which was once the second most important port in the British Empire. That's no longer the case, but I'd wager that when this stadium opens, no other port in the world will have a nicer football stadium in it. And after all, isn't that what ports are all about? The design is ultra modern in some aspects, but as you saw, there will be plenty of red brick outside, which is no bad thing. Much like Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it too will have one big single-tiered stand that forms an uninterrupted wall of Everton supporters. Or in the case of the Euros, insert European country supporters. St James's Park. Your first thought when looking at this stadium from above might be, wow, that's more lopsided than the recent UK general election. But the asymmetrical proportions are not caused by an unpopular government. It's just that the ground opened in 1892, and despite the club growing, and demand for tickets growing over the decades, the land that's available to the club has not grown. So they made the best of what they had. They clearly had more room available to the west and north of the ground. I personally like the look of a lopsided stadium. It also means those sitting in the nosebleeds of the larger stands get a lovely view out to the city. Although it's a bit dreich today. I know that's a Scottish word, but Newcastle's close to Scotland. Speaking of Scotland, oh wait, not yet. Villa Park is home to a club called Aston Villa, which is a very luxurious sounding name. I mean, if you drive an Aston and live in a villa, you've probably got it made. Fittingly, Villa Park has an air of prestige about it, most notably the beautiful brick facade of the Holt End that greets spectators as they arrive. Inside, it's a classic British football stadium layout, with a standalone covered stand on each side, and corners that have been left more or less empty. It's certainly a timeless design that is aesthetically pleasing, whether or not you have complete colour blindness. However, if you can see colour, the claret and blue colour scheme really is the icing on the cake. Speaking of Scotland, Hampton Park was once not only the largest stadium in Scotland, but the largest football stadium in the entire world, including Montenegro. At its peak, it could accommodate more than 3 times its modern day capacity of around 50,000. It's not even the largest stadium in Glasgow anymore, but it still acts as the home of Scotland's national football team. One aspect to this place that's not exactly ideal is the fact that the seating bowl is not rectangular. Sure, that means that it can potentially host athletics events, as it has done recently, but the spectators aren't as close to the action as they should be. Still, the locals have no problem creating an intimidating atmosphere. Dublin Arena. I literally talked about this stadium in the most recent video on the channel, The Stadiums of Dublin, check it out. But I certainly don't mind talking about it again, it's a spectacular stadium. Much like St James's Park, the seating layout is very lopsided, but that's where the similarities end. The stadium's most distinctive feature is the transparent exterior, made from a combination of plastic and glass, that contours downwards towards the diminutive northern stand. I suppose I should also mention that it's basically attached to the Lansdowne Road station, so that's convenient. Lansdowne Road, by the way, is the name of the stadium that used to occupy the site. In fact, some people call this stadium Lansdowne Road. Casement Park. No, stop laughing at Belfast for having such a decrepit looking stadium. They do have some nicer grounds, so you might be wondering why Casement Park was chosen as the host. Well, this crumbling rectangle of concrete will be completely rebuilt. It's set to become a modern all-seater football stadium, although the process is not exactly going smoothly so far. There have been legal disputes and there are significant financial constraints. But I'm sure if everyone in Belfast reaches down the back of their couch, they'll find like a Matchbox car or something. People don't really use coins anymore, do they? It'll get built. Probably. And those were the Euro 2028 stadiums. Thanks for watching, have a good one.